From the 915 to H-Town, from the Panhandle Plains to the Valley, and everywhere in between, this is the 50/50 Podcast, powered by the 50/50 Podcast Network. Join me, Hector Cano, as we cover the Texas high school club and college soccer landscape, along with an inside look at the college soccer recruiting scene. The 50/50 Podcast is a platform about the people and for the people who are dedicated to the beautiful game. Here we go, and we are back live from beautiful Moody Gardens in Galveston, Texas, for the 2024 Texas High School TASCO Texas High School Soccer Coaches Convention. And I am proud to say my next guest helps boost the 66% of all MacArthur high schools in Texas are in the house. He is Eric Alonzo, the head women's soccer coach of Irving MacArthur Cardinals. Coach, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you.
See if you can get that mic a little closer to you. There you go. Perfect. Awesome. Hey, thank you for being here. How are things?
It's going great. Yeah. Can't complain.
Yeah. Awesome. Great stuff. So, I know we've been talking a good bit going back to coaching school this summer, right? I've been checking in regularly. And so I was looking forward to the opportunity to finally be able to sit down here, talk with you for a little bit here today. Tell us, just general thoughts on TASCO, just I guess the vibe, the environment. What are your thoughts so far?
Well, so far, it's been a great opportunity for, high school coaches to come in and gather some information. And obviously the time of year is right before our season, get us all excited and get us geared up. And, obviously coaching is what it is. You come and sit through these sessions and you take it and then modify it to what is you're able to do for your own program.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it's been very, very exciting for us to come in and sit through these sessions. And another thing I really like is obviously catching up with peers from, in the past, coaches and players and so forth. So,
yeah. Anything this year, because I know you attend these regularly, anything different about this year that you've noticed or that stands out to you? Anything in particular?
Well, this particular convention in the last day and a half that we've been here, I feel like the sessions have improved quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've been able to take a little bit from every session that we've been to.
Mm-hmm.
We're excited to go back and, modify and put these things into some of the things that we've already pre-planned and what we were thinking about doing with our team, because our teams are, every year they change, depending on what you have, the skill level and the players that you have. So we're excited that, coming up with a new team per se, same players, but how we're going to make them fit into our program, system of play and stuff like that. So we're excited. So I think the sessions themselves with the clinicians and how they, were able to bring where their topics were, for us to put those into our program has been very, very
mm-hmm.
rewarding.
Best field session so far that you've had a chance to see? Maybe you didn't see the whole thing, but just you liked what you saw.
Right off the bat, the first one yesterday, crossing and finishing. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
right before we left for break, we were implementing some of the crossing and finishing. So now
Mm-hmm.
we're like, hey, now we can really take it up another level.
Yeah.
And, it's always good to have a different view and different angles and different things. So we're really excited about that, yesterday's session on that. And then this afternoon, the classroom session on the three midfielders
Mm-hmm.
was very good for us, because we're
Is that the one with Fred the Cranian?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So we've been looking at doing that as well with some of the players that we have, and
Mm-hmm.
kind of filling in spaces with names and like, hey, this player here, this player there. So that was really good for us as well.
Yeah.
And then of course, Coach Mackey yesterday, we already were introduced to the Texas Way last summer, but now more coaches are getting the hang of it, or we're introduced to it yesterday. So hopefully that takes off on itself with the Texas Way, with us and how we're going to approach games this year.
Yeah. So I'm curious. So, because we had two of them on here yesterday, both Fred
Mm-hmm.
as well as Stephen Mackey. from Fred DeCranian's perspective, right? The three midfielders, what was the biggest thing in that session that got your attention? Like any kind of one thing in particular that really kind of stood out to you?
Well, the way he was able to break down that type of player that you have and what the qualities that player must have, like the central defensive midfielder, a real true pivot player, what they're able to do. And the way he was able to break it down with his video session between, the examples that he gave, this player, for Manchester City, you can tell when he's not there. And when he was able to break that down in the video, everybody in the room got it.
Mm-hmm.
It was very clear. And so hopefully all the coaches can go back and kind of see, do we really have that player? And is this really true for us? And that's what we got to figure out too. So, we're going to try it. We're always going to try it. You keep trying. That's what coaching is. You try, and make it fit,
right.
to your own.
Well,
so I think that was it.
Well, and the fact that you're open to that, I think it speaks volumes to where our coaches need to be as they attend and sit in on these sessions, right? Because I had, and that's part of the reason why I asked that question. I had that part of that conversation with Fred about, hey, how do you kind of try to target where you ideally, and he had a great point. He talked about how I want to present at a level that is maybe not where it goes over their head, but maybe is just slightly above, just enough. Right. And then, and I asked him, it's like, so what are your thoughts on how do you re-engage maybe a coach who has that mental block and they're somewhere as they're watching the session unfold, they can't get past I'm never going to be able to do this with my group, right? How do we engage them? How do you hook them?
That's a good point, because some clinicians in the past have really given us some stuff that was, well, we don't have the resources, we don't have the players, we don't have the depth. But today in that session, using the video we can see it right off the hand, and we got the point. So like I said before, the coaches should have a great idea of going away with something they can use.
Yeah. It was great. It's been good. And then having a conversation had a great conversation with Stephen Mackey yesterday. So come to find out, we had a lot of stuff in common, as our conversation unfolded. I think, what they're doing, it'll be interesting to see. I'm kind of curious, particularly with soccer, right? Our sport, how much it's been under the magnifying glass, right? For many reasons, how the Texas way maybe takes hold from not just the players, but the coaches and then the officials. Had Todd Wheeldon in here earlier today, the president-elect of TASCO. And that was one of the things that we talked about that we hit on, right, is the emphasis for officials to get certified on that and to have the awareness of the do's and don'ts of what's kind of being pushed right now through the Texas way.
It has to come down from the coaches. They have to implement the curriculum. If they haven't done so, they need to do it as quickly as possible so that everybody's on the same page. When they have their parents meeting, show the video, just say, look, this is not just us. It's not our district. It's the whole state. It's the whole, it's going to be everybody. So if everybody embraces it, hopefully that it takes effect and we can see a change, because like you said, the only time that we really hear about our sport is the negative. You see a viral video of a fight or whatever. And that's not the case, because we have a lot of good in our sport that we really need to promote.
Yeah. I would agree. And that was kind of some of what Stephen Mackey hit on yesterday. He kind of gave a brief, he didn't go into obviously full detailed numbers, but he talked about some of the data, I guess, that's coming out of our fall sports already, right, with the implementation of the Texas way. So now the focus transitions to winter sports, right?
Right.
So we'll see how that goes. So, so overall, how many sessions have you been able to sit in on in a day and a half or so today? Field class?
Just about all of them. We took, we went to lunch today, so that was the only time we were away from the convention. So because I think, again, the convention itself did a great job of listing some great clinicians back to back to back to back. So, it was very hard at times to decide, do we go to this one or this one? So, but I think they did a great job. We've been here since 4:00 yesterday, or whenever it started, the first session. Yeah.
How has this, you've been attending these long enough, let's say, we'll just say pre-COVID, maybe 2019. How much has this event changed?
I think it's getting better. It's getting better. And, the only setback I think that we really need to figure out, and sometimes it's beyond our control, is getting more coaches to take the time off in the time of the year. But other than that, the quality is much better, and hopefully it continues to be that way in the future.
Yeah. Yeah. I was having this conversation at lunch with a couple of coaches, a couple of friends, and administrators, right? As coaches, is making that pitch for the administration, for your ISDs to support you in getting here. I would completely agree, because
Right.
we had that exact conversation.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah. And hopefully that's something that, we can open more eyes to and allow that to happen. Because, we have an indoor facility, you can't make everybody happy.
Right.
You can't move it around and this and that and take a chance on the weather. Because I would, I've heard some stories back in the day when it was in San Antonio, you've got the weather to figure out, then you're really taking a chance on that.
Yeah.
But other than, you've got a great facility here, you've got, what you need here. And I think they do a great job.
Excuse me. Yeah. I for a long time, I would hear the questions as to, why in Galveston, or why not something more central? And makes sense, right?
Right.
In theory, makes sense. Completely makes sense. Then when I got here, and particularly 3 years ago with the podcast, I saw the other side of the curtain, right? The logistics,
Yes.
what Moody Gardens can actually support, right? The demand of what TASCO will need. And it's not a very simple cookie cutter. Anybody can just step in, right? And they do such great work in support of the TASCO staff, board members, and that, of us, of the podcast as well. And what I've seen, and then just how the infrastructure that's already in place after seeing it, and year after year, these last 3 years, it gets better.
Mm-hmm.
It's gotten better.
Right.
And so I get it. I get it. So in some spots, it's a little bit of a longer trip. I get it. I do. I really do. I empathize, but it makes a lot of sense.
Right. It's just like coaching. Everybody thinks, the outside world sees coaching as just us showing up at the field or whatever, but they don't. It's like that picture of an iceberg. You see the tip of the iceberg above the water, but everything underneath it, they don't understand. It's grades and fundraising and dealing with your students, and they don't see everything behind the scenes. And these guys, obviously, I'm a big believer, if it's not broken, you don't fix it.
Correct.
So hopefully, you continue to have the quality. Everybody's familiar with it. They know about it. And hopefully it continues to grow.
Yeah. So we start to transition here, Coach, and we start talking about the upcoming season, right? 2024, 2025 is going to be in the record books for a very historic season for, two massive changes in our sport. Right. One is, as I've been talking about with every high school coach that we've had on here, is the implementation of the D1, D2, split, state champion split. And then, of course, the very recent implementation of the mercy rule. And I'll share with you the same as I've shared with everyone else. I think the fact that these two came to be did not shock me. What shocked me was it's like, boom, hey, we're implementing them now.
No
That was the part that got me. Yeah, that was the part that got me. So what are your thoughts? So we'll tackle one at a time, but what are your thoughts on the D1, D2 split?
Well, we're seeing that now with football, the recent transition that they did into their playoffs, and you've seen some different, the districts obviously are different this year. So you're seeing a lot of different matchups, and there were not, I believe in football, they were not as competitive as they would like them to be, but in soccer, they're going to give us different matchups that we weren't, originally planning for. So I would think that when you go into, now you don't have the traditional 1 versus 4, 2 versus 3. Now you have to kind of rely on, the enrollment numbers and look at that. Yeah. So it's for every district, I think, with the new district, you're going to get new teams, but you're going to get new matchups. So that'll be interesting to see how that rolls out.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of interesting pieces, right? I think one of the things, I knew this was going to become more, I knew this was going to be more real when I started hearing the talks of, and that man right there, actually, who just stuck his head in the door. Yeah. I had him on the podcast over the summer, and one of the things, he dropped something on me that I hadn't really thought about. And he said that our regions in Texas, especially in 5A and 6A, are bigger than some of the total number of school participants in other states. That's right.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. So when he put it like that, I was just like, okay, a more than one state champion makes a lot more sense. Right. So, and then of course, when I had heard that saying that came down from UIL about, hey, ideally we want to put more trophies in more kids' hands, right?
Mhm.
So it made a lot of sense. So I get that one. Now the other one, the one that's kind of a little bit more divisive, right? The
Right.
mercy rule. Thoughts on that one?
Well, personally, I see that maybe in other areas, but coming from the Dallas Fort Worth area, you do have some pockets that you can see that being implemented, but it's so competitive.
Yeah.
Our district is very competitive as well. Um, we wouldn't probably see that more at the varsity level. You might see it with some of the levels at JV2, JV maybe, but I think that kind of controls things so that things don't get out of hand. And I can see that. But, when you see the more competitive districts, I don't, it's not going to really take effect, but, hopefully it serves its purpose. We can see it and then move on.
Yeah.
And then go from there.
Yeah. It is interesting. Majority of the 6A coaches I've had this conversation with seem to be indifferent to it, right? 5A coaches, many indifferent. Some have opinions. 4A is all over the place, though.
Right.
4A seems to be all over the place, right?
Yeah.
So even though it was pretty unanimous, from my understanding, in terms of people wanting it, right? So as far as the survey that was put out there, so yeah, it'll be interesting to see what it looks like in year one, and then the evolution of that.
Yeah, and I hope it doesn't get to a point where it doesn't get abused. When the team's up 7-0, and then they, for whatever reason, they want to play the extra 20 minutes, and obviously with the Texas way or whatever, it always comes down to let's respect the game. Let's just keep the game pure, and not do anything to disrespect them or the other teams.
Yeah, and I think that's what lends itself. So the conversation that I was just having with Coach Hurtado, Jerry Hurtado, just a minute ago from Deer Park, was trying to minimize the amount of modification or manipulation of the game, right? Because then that's when you start getting into a whole other territory.
Yes.
So different can get a little dangerous. So I understand where he was coming from with that as well. So yeah, it was a great point. Now your squad this coming season, right? You guys, what is 7-6A? What is 7, right? 7-6A. How do you feel about your district, and how do you feel about your squad going in this year?
Well, with the new district, we went from 8 teams to 7. We lost Highland Park, and I believe they went down to 5A.
They went 5A.
Yeah. So now you have 7 teams fighting for 4 spots. But as Irving ISD is grouped with Richardson ISD, so Richardson ISD traditionally in the past has been very strong. So I think it's going to be a very competitive district. There's going to be obviously some schools that stand out, and so hopefully we put ourselves in a position to fight for one of the top 4 spots.
Yeah, it's going to be 7. I know that the majority of the districts around the state seem to have at least 8, especially at the 5A, 6A level. So yeah, it's a different. Yeah, it's a tighter.
Yeah,
tighter mix.
Gives us a bye there, in the season. So we hopefully can use that and regroup at that time to get ready to finish it out strong. And obviously we always tell them, hey, it's not how you started the season. It's we're all excited about the beginning, but it's always comes down to how you finish.
So you've had at least going on about 3 months now with your squad in preseason. Going into it, how do you feel?
Our squad, we're gonna we return about eight varsity starters.
Yeah, and
so it's going to be up to us to fill in the pieces of the puzzle that we need to replace those 3 that we lost. We lost a big one there. We lost Anna Cedeno. She is going to graduate early. We got some good news on her. She signed with UCLA. Hopefully she'll. And that's one of her plans. So she just got recently called in for the U.S. Under 19 Women's National Team camp they had a few weeks ago. And
I saw that.
So we're really excited about what her future holds. So we'll see if she continues to follow that and follow that. So filling her shoes is obviously going to be an issue for us, but hopefully year to year every team changes. So we're looking to see what our strengths are going to be, and then kind of go from there. Yeah,
it'll be interesting. It's a great mix, and obviously, I'm a little biased, but I'll be rooting on the fellow MacArthur schools.
Right,
so wishing you the absolute best.
Thank you.
But yeah, no, I mean, I'm definitely wishing you the best, Coach. and anything we can do to help you along the way, let us know.
Appreciate it. Yes.
Let us know for sure. As we start wrapping up here, Coach, one of the things that we'd like to highlight here is we like to give the opportunity, we call it stoppage time, where we give our guests the opportunity to anything they want to address, shout outs, thank yous, anything they'd like to talk about that's on their mind about the sport, about this event, the convention here this weekend, anything, the floor is yours.
Oh, wow. Well, I appreciate you and to do with everything that you're doing with the podcast to help promote the game, and everybody that you've brought on so far, from high school coaches to people outside the game, to try to increase the brand and the popularity of our sport. The college coaches, the professional coaches that you've done. It's been a great listen. From time to time, we learn stuff, and all the guys that you've brought on, all the people that you've brought on. So that's been a great outlet for us. We didn't have this before, and so when you do this, you reach out to more people, and that's what we want to try to do. So, so that being it, other than the fact that we've enjoyed coming to these things, because again, we get to network, and that for me is the main thing. Is I get to see former players of mine or students of mine that are now coaches, and then people that I've coached against for the last 20 years or 30 years that I've been doing it. So, but other than that, I've been blessed to be in a position that I'm at, and had the experiences that I've had, and I just try to pass along that experience to my players now. So hopefully they continue to enjoy the game. So, but again, appreciate all you do. I appreciate all my, former staff, assistants that have made this game and helped me with what I do. So, and hopefully look forward to many, many brighter things in the future. Right. Absolutely. And as we wrap up, obviously we'll do this offline, but to want to make sure, I got to get this plug in so I don't forget, is we'll have you sign that ball there. Little message if you want to sign that ball. So that will actually go in the studio, the podcast studio. And so that one goes with me. And then this guy, we're going to have you fill out our poster board back here. Just kind of little message, signature, whatever you want to put on there somewhere, one of the colored areas where we can see your writing. We're going to give that away to a coach or somebody that wants to put that up in their field house or something. That's our plan. So I think we got a spot for it. There you Awesome. But Coach, all right. Really appreciate you. Thank you for everything you're doing. Wishing you the absolute best. See, you brought your assistant here. He was a little shy. Didn't want to jump in front of the camera, but we won't pick on him. But Coach X Garcia, he's been with me for 3 years and does a great job for us. Awesome. So you're following, listen to this guy. All right. Great guy to listen to. So awesome. So, and don't go anywhere, folks. We'll be back shortly with more live coverage from the 2024 TASCO Texas High School Soccer Coaches Convention, Moody Gardens here in Galveston, Texas.